If you could, when you go out and talk to these seniors and people in your community, get them to vote, what's your message? You know, what do you think when you, if you were going to try to convince me to vote, you know, or register to vote, give me your best shot.
Well, first I'd introduce myself. So, how you doing? I'm Amara. And so, so I understand you're not registered to vote?
No.
You're not?
No.
Well, first of all, we all know that people fought for the right to vote. They fought for that. And just not being able to vote, you're taking away something that people, our founding fathers, wanted to do. We wanted these rights. And it's just, it's kind of sad because don't you want a voice in this community? Don't you want to show people what you have to say?
I guess I do.
You do, right?
But my vote on the school budget, you know, they don't care.
No, well, they do care. And the thing is, you shouldn't think like that. You should think that every vote makes a difference because it does. Every vote counts. And especially in a vote like education, if we lose this budget again, there's going to be so many kids that are hurting, not only in the competitive arena with colleges, but just building themselves as individuals. And it's not, I know you don't have kids in this system, I know, but you have to think about the children of America and just general, the children of New Jersey, the children of Edison.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about myself. You know, I pay a lot of money in property taxes. I don't have any more money. And it's like the school system, every time they have one of these budgets, they want more money.
Well, that's because they want to implement new stuff. But right now we're cutting and we can't afford this anymore. We're already at our point, our breaking point, and if we just go further, we're just going to just run off a cliff, and there's no turning back from there. And it's just, I just need your support because I want you to understand that education is something we can't be cheap on. There are no numbers with education. And I really think that you should realize that. And I know you might not agree with me. I know anything I say to you might just bounce off of you. But even though I might not change your mind, I just want you to show that we do care about our education. And kids like me, I'm in my senior year. If I wanted to, I don't have to care about Edison's public school system. But I do, and I don't have children. I mean, you know that. I'm 18. Let's hope not. But it's just, I just want to know that the people after me, they're going to have the same opportunities I had to make the communities a better place. Because like I said before, it's not the education we're hurting the possibility to make a difference. And that's what it all comes down to. Events like Senior Citizens Prom, we might not have any. Actually, we're not having. So we can't show our community how much we appreciate them as much as we did before.
I think an important part of this whole thing is that people don't understand schools are easy scapegoats in times of economic crisis because there's such a large portion. But it's hard to understand this very fact. Last year, the school district lost $18 million, yet taxes still went up. So how,
Can you explain how that's possible? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that math.
And that's sort of the math that gets
that's
hidden
what
on
makes
the
people
side.
upset a
That's
little
what
bit.
makes people upset. So, we talk about, in terms of the concept of school budgets going up, but a lot of it has to do with sort of what I call the house of cards in which all these finances are built upon. Ratables in the town and things, tax rates, all that beyond our control. So you take a place like Edison, which cut $18 million in 1 year out of a budget, and yet taxes still went up beyond the 2% that the state is talking about. And that has a lot to do with other things. But it's hard to communicate that to people because it's such difficult math. They'd rather not understand it. The rhetoric in the newspaper is all about headlines about how bad schools are, public employees, superintendents, everything about public school, because somebody needs to take the blame. Everyone wants to put the blame on someone, yet nobody wants to take a step back and say, well, what is really the crisis here? Because you'll have a 2% cap, but you'll still have budgets that and taxes that'll go up. And that's really a problem for us, that we can't communicate what the overall problem is. And the math is so hard to explain. And anytime you try to do that to the public, they're just saying you're playing with numbers. That's fuzzy math, because it is so complex. But it's more than just schools wanting to raise their budgets. And taxes do go up because more ratables and tax rates, which are much more complex and more done at a municipal level than what the school has control over.
So what do you say to those people who say, okay, Edison, you cut $18 million out of your school budget and the lights are still on,
Correct.
And kids are still learning, and maybe it is time to tighten your belt? I mean, help them understand what's lost in that.
Well, what's lost in that is, you know, people talk about administrative costs. Edison has the second lowest administrative costs in the state of New Jersey, both per pupil and salary and benefits. Yet people still use the rhetoric, you know, you have too many administrators. It doesn't matter. We could shut down schools and people would still complain that their taxes are high. So what is the answer? The answer is let's try to find what the problem is rather than trying to place blame. Right now, the rhetoric is very good for politicians to have someone to point to as the problem, yet nobody really wants to fix the problem. Nobody really wants to get into the math of how schools are funded, how that really affects districts throughout. I mean, it's really the system, it's a systems problem. We happen to be the poster child for what's bad about it because we're not very good about explaining ourselves. And I think the two of us are going to really try to send a message not only to the residents of Edison, but throughout New Jersey that we do care about education. We want to talk to people about how great our schools are. The finances are beyond what we really can control. But here's what we believe is going to make a good education here. Here's what we already cut. Here's how it affects kids. And moving forward, the question's going to be about sustainability. You know, we have to be able to sustain public schools. I mean, schools have to exist in order for our country as a whole to be competitive in the market. I mean, China already owns us.
India's next.
How can we compete? No longer is Amara going to compete against someone in Woodbridge or someone in another part of the state of New Jersey or even throughout this country. She's going to be competing for jobs right now with kids all across the world. How do I provide an education that is going to enable her to compete that the taxpayers can afford? And that's really a systematic problem. That's something we've got to be able to work on. And when we have people out there communicating false messages for their political agenda, which is not accurate, it makes it much harder for us who stand there and try to defend students like this and programs like we have here in Edison. It makes it much more. And,
I think you're hitting the nail right on the head because I think that within all of that messaging, people lose sight of the fact that it's about her and her future and every kid in this building and the 14,000 kids in this district, that you're really trying to give them everything that they can to be successful, which is how the country got to be what it's all about. And if we stop investing in that, there's going to be a point, maybe not this year or maybe not 2 years from now, but 10 years from now, when we're going to be scratching our heads wondering what happened here and why unemployment's now 20% and we can't get any jobs and we're not inventing anything.
And why we're being outsourced. Because we are.
So if you really peel the onion back and we look at unemployment, we look at those that are unemployed, you know, there's a pattern there. The less educated, those just coming out of college, they're having a hard time finding jobs, and there's a lot of reasoning. So we're trying to prepare our students to be productive citizens in the world, yet we're stripping them of all the resources to do that, and that's a problem. And very much what you said, you know, I'm proposing a budget, but students like this are what my budget's about. It's not about all the rhetoric. Yet I don't have a podium or a media outlet where people will start to believe me, but I think voices like this will start to spread the word that public education is important. It has a meaning, it has a place, and we can't fix all the problems on the backs of the children in our school districts, and that's going to take some people getting into the room. But we can't just throw it out. We can't throw everything out because of one economic problem. We need to work on it.
We can't fix it, but we can try.
That's correct.
All right, so the last word is yours, young lady. Tell everybody in New Jersey why they should come out and vote on April 27th.
Because, like I said before, if you want good leaders for the future, in order to be the leaders of tomorrow, we have to see what the leaders of today have to offer. And if I'm seeing that the people around me don't care about education, they don't care about their future, then that's just throwing a horrible message for kids younger than me. Because honestly, we can't afford to throw back our education. We can't at all, because this is something that builds us not only as individuals but as citizens of this country. And to be that productive citizen, we have to keep propelling ourselves forward, challenging ourselves. And I think that everyone in New Jersey needs to realize that education is something that's really important to me as it is to everyone else in the school building. And I think that they need to realize that we need your vote and we need you to come out on April 27th.